Not using the.
And we are live on the Side Quest live, and it's beautiful happening Friday evening here at SideQuesting HQ. We are now rejoined by this guy up there, Taylor Bliss. Welcome
That's
back
me.
after a couple weeks away. We
Oh,
last saw you. I'm Dolly Demosky.
still recovering.
Still recovering.
I'm legit still a little
And that's
sick from
JJ.
PAX. Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah, my nose still hasn't fully recovered from PAX yet.
You caught the PAX pox.
I
Not
caught
COVID,
it.
but the pox. That's for sure.
I think this was plain pox.
Yeah, it's just a regular pox. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I usually come back from PAX, or other conferences, E3, whatever. I'm always coming back with something, and I'm always like just crushed for like 2-3 days afterwards. Nothing this year. It's like the first time in ages that I came back with like I'm feeling fine.
It's weird what happens when the whole every attendee has to wear a face
mask.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm 100% certain it wasn't the show because it was actually relatively clean at the show. But the airplane, like I heard coughing, I heard sneezing, I heard sniffles. Nobody was wearing a mask on the plane. I was, but.
You can thank our PAX party list for helping spread all the COVID that actually was there.
Maybe don't advertise that part. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah. No, it was a fun time, healthy as we can be. Good to have you back, Taylor. Real quick before we get into all the rest of the stuff, PAX. We didn't get to do a follow up with you on PAX. JJ and I already talked. What was your PAX experience like this year, like overall in general?
I mean, it's a lot for me because it was my first time back in almost a decade. So, it's like, hey, what was PAX like for you? In comparison, it's like, okay, well, the last time that I went, it was the up and coming of indie games, and now what's interesting is that now that's what PAX, at least this PAX East was. To say that they dominated the show floor almost doesn't go far enough because they were the show floor. It was the be all and end all of everything there.
Yeah, like Baldur's Gate was like the largest thing, like the biggest,
and to call Baldur's Gate and Larian. To say that they're not, they're like, they're not indie in a sense, but like they're also not what we typically construe as that AAA presence on a show floor. So
I guess that Tiny Tina game was there, but nobody cared.
yeah, you didn't hear a lot about it. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. It was nice to be back. It was nice to like talk to, because the biggest thing that obviously I talk to you guys on a regular basis, but as far as people that are more embedded in the industry, this is the first time that I got to talk.
Yeah, we're just fucking clowns by comparison.
Myself included.
Yeah.
And so to be able to sit down and actually talk to folks that are embedded in it again was very welcome, because I have not done that in a long time. So I don't think that I necessarily got the true pulse of the games industry from it, but it was a fun time. I guess that's the way that I look at it.
We capped off a panel. I think we did okay for ourselves.
That's still insane
dope.
To me. Yep. My first panel was sold out.
So it was you. So basically, I've never sold out a panel. So it's totally
that's true. There's only one thing that's changed, Dally. But yeah, no. There was a lot of things that were really cool to see. I will say that on top of really liking a lot of the stuff that I saw, one of the other things that's so different compared to like the last time that I went, and we talked about this a little bit on the floor when we were looking at stuff, is the sheer presence of early access, whether it is a game that's actually in early access, literally, or we're showing this on the show floor and it's also available, this exact thing that you're playing right now and not that I don't like this, but it's something to note, is available on Steam right now as a demo, is an interesting juxtaposition, because it's cool that accessibility is there. It's weird that it removes some of the exclusiveness of being on an expo floor.
The sort of expo necessity has been stripped away from it.
Right. It's that kind of sense of, I went here and I played this thing that I couldn't have done anywhere else. That part is gone. Now, nowhere, when I get downloaded off of Steam, I don't get to talk to the sole developer of it. So that part's the unique experience for sure. But that's very different than,
and that's also just sort of a result of the big guys not being there too, because there's no early access, EA game or THQ
very true.
game.
Very true.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys had kind of a different response to that question than what I gave, but that's what I have to say.
No, I think yours was good enough.
Thanks.
Good enough.
I think it was the same. I think I mentioned it last weekend at the show that I actually loved seeing more indies there, more than anything else. The smaller sort of the AA and AAA studios, or whatever you want to call them, and just flat out indies. I think those are fantastic. Hey, Jeffrey, super duper Jeff. And so it was a great experience from that standpoint. And the reason I love shows like PAX is that you actually get one-on-one time with developers and not necessarily the PR people. Nothing. I love my PR people. I love you. But what I mean is just hired booth work is what I should say.
Well, it's like getting taken behind a door and talking to the people that are actually like boots to the ground on the game.
Yeah.
Getting
there's something so cool about that.
Special. Like I always go back to just having to go that weird like off-site Toe Jam and Earl thing that I did that one time, where the creator of Toe Jam and Earl was there, like still coming up with ideas for this game that wasn't coming out for like 6 months. It was just like this, as you're trying to interview him, he's like hashing out with the developers actively. You're just like, and you get that stuff. Get that stuff on the show floor. Like they see you break it in some way, and they're like, "I guess we should try to figure out what to do with that, huh?"
One of my demos was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, sorry, you're about to get to a spot where the entire palette for the background is broken," and like, in some ways, it's kind of endearing because it's like, I'm not gonna get this. I'm personally fine with it. It's like I have no misgivings about where this game is in its process of being made, so I don't similarly don't have any expectations about it. I know that they're not trying to release it, so it's kind of endearing to be able to like, oh yeah, it's like they're clearly very not happy about it. It's like it's broken. You're like, yeah, that's fine. I don't know, I like it. I like the genuineness.
Same. Well, PAX East is gone. It's over.
Yeah, it's
already planning for next year. Maybe I'll be there. It might be falling on a weekend that I may not be able to make it, but I might sneak out for a day or two. So we'll see.
We're all about June now. We're just all about waiting.
June, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But first, TwitchCon. I'd love to go to TwitchCon.
Yeah, we're gonna get partnered and then go to Twitch.
Yeah, exactly. First, there is.
We're so close to.
We're so close. We got 6 whole subscribers. No, I do want to get into a little.
One of them is me.
And one of them is me. You got a third of the subscribers. No, I do want to get into a little bit of news, because surprisingly there was not giant, earth-shattering news, but some pretty substantial news. I'm gonna jump with the first one here, which is.
At least one big one.
At least one big one. The Sonic 2 news, exactly. No, Embracer Group has purchased the rights to a bunch of the Western developers, a bunch of the IP from Square Enix.
I was gonna say more than the rights; they just bought the studios.
They just bought the studios, baby. $300 million per. I think this is a steal from the IP and studio people standpoint. Whatever you say about the games is one thing, but to have this amount of talent, I think, is awesome. I mean, that's what Crystal Dynamics is a part of that. Ubisoft, or I'm sorry, Square Enix Montreal, IDOS. So there's a bunch. There's a bunch of stuff on there. So and they get the IP.
It's kind of crazy because Crystal Dynamics feels like it would have been worth a lot of money on its own. Because I don't know. I mean, I feel like the combo of Crystal Dynamics and Lara Croft has become quite valuable in the last few years. But
with movies and with a second movie supposedly in the works.
Well, the movie rates aren't tied to it, right? This is just game rights.
No, but
the movie promotes the IP.
Yep, and we know there's a new game in there, so we need to be affiliate first. Hey, how's it going, Playland? But just me clicking shit as usual. Yeah. But it's a big win for Embracer, who just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. I mean, they bought
remember
the THQ stuff.
It's crazy because like you look at. Like, oh my god, Embracer, who the fuck is Embracer? And then you are like, oh, okay, time to go click on their Wikipedia page and realize that it's actually Nordic, aka THQ Nordic. Well, just because like Embracer Group sounds like such a fucking venture capital, like just big money random group of dudes. Like I don't like that's what it sounds like to me.
Weird. I wonder why.
Weird. Yes. But at the same time, it is specifically a video game company.
Yeah.
And it's not a VC firm that's just trying to expand and own a bit of video game to like expand its portfolio. I get that Embracer Group is also extremely generic for a specific reason. But despite that, it is more focused.
Yes. And so Embracer, again, they started as Nordic Games, smaller company. They produced the We Sing and SingStar and a couple other little like smaller things. So nothing overly major. But I think it was really 2011 when they started like just buying up studios left and right. And then I think it was in 2013 when the remnants of THQ went up for sale, and they said, well, shit, we're going to buy it. Let's go ahead and buy it. And so they bought it, and then they changed the name to THQ Nordic a couple years later. And then
that was 2013.
2013 they bought it.
When they did the rebranded THQ Nordic.
And from then on, they started pumping out a few games, and then they bought was it Koch Media or Koch Media, whatever who knows how to pronounce it, whatever they're called. And it ballooned after that. It just exponentially.
Well, what was crazy is that they were like scooping studios off of Koch Media for years. I mean, because I don't know this off the top of my head. I'm reading the Wikipedia page. It started with Raven's Court in 2014, and then you just keep going down, and then it's like, okay, well they sat on it for a bit, and then they started picking up Deep Silver properties off of Koch Media.
What is it? Don't they own Gearbox now? Like as of last year?
Probably. Who knows?
They bought Lost Boys Interactive and Cryptic off of Gearbox. Oh, actually, and they bought Gearbox Publishing San Francisco.
Oh, there you go. So they
according to
many.
Gearbox Entertainment was acquired by Embracer Group in April 2021.
You know who else was? Dark Horse from the comics. So they bought them. They bought Deca Games. Yeah, they got Gearbox Entertainment. They bought all the Koch Media, which includes Prime Matter and a bunch of stuff. Saber Interactive they own, which includes 3D Realms.
I was going to say, 3D Realms, Demiurge, which was Demiurge had a presence at PAX East.
Let me just say this, that the Wikipedia page says they really started looking at going international in 2011. We're older than Embracer Group.
And yet here we are, unacquired by Embracer.
That means we're gonna acquire Embracer.
I would be very good for the business.
No.
Hopefully, I would love to just get moved to Dark Horse Comics.
Yeah, there you go. There's you specifically. They'll move to Dark.
But it's insane how they just they were really quiet from like 2013 to 20, even through almost 2018. There was a lot of like at the end of 2017, something happened where they were like, okay, it's time to buy. And then for the past 5 years, it's just been all out.
And they've been staring at their acquisitions have been very perfectly timed to the point where you can almost say, hey, HBO is looking to auction off get rid of some of their WB stuff, and DC, maybe there's something there.
I mean, yeah.
But
make no Comic-Cons. But
yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there is a reality where Dark Horse and DC sort of become this conglomerate. Or the way Warner Brothers is Discovery is absolutely uninterested in the comic book side of everything.
But maybe we'll find out some games from. Well, like I said, they bought Tomb Raiders, the IP. Maybe we'll find out a little bit more about Tomb Raider at the upcoming Summer Game Fest, which launches June 9th. Summer Game Fest live. See the future of video games.
What a fucking graphic they have for this.
This
like,
is quite,
holy shit, this is straight out of like a Game Fan magazine in 1998.
Oh, that's just that. What a graphic. What a date and time.
I had Thursday at 11 a.m. my time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who? Yeah. So,
how am I going to day drink?
Who is? Well, I guess. I mean, here's my thing:
I'm still going to day drink, but
who is this? Who is this targeted at?
I don't. Yeah, right. Like it has all the feeling of them wanting to push this towards just the media side, like old E3.
Well, it's like just media, and just kids
on summer vacation.
On summer vacation, I don't know.
Well, they're not on summer vacation yet because schools are still in for like the next day. They're still
after June, through June 9th.
Through that week, because it's like what's last folks are in. Yeah, I will say time wise, the time frame is I think 11 a.m. your time. You said JJ 2 p.m. East Coast time.
Yeah.
And European time it's good, but when you look at Japan, it's like 3 a.m. Japan time.
Mm-hmm.
So you either got to do it late at night, which is manageable. You do like a 9 o'clock, like a Game Awards show. Or you do or like a 6 o'clock, I think 6 o'clock is probably a pretty good time. Or you do really early in the morning, even earlier than this, which they're not doing. It's a weird, weird
it made sense when this was E3 because it was press coverages,
yes,
press events. That's just like you get to enjoy it, but it's not really for you,
right?
Kind of thing. Like. This is Jeff Keighley. This is the man that is trying to mainstream all of this video game bullshit. And 11 a.m. on a Thursday.
It's just weird.
Like I don't know.
Really
like
the Thursday. Is it like when you go get a convention? It's like, well, this is the cheapest weekend to do it, so this is when we're gonna do it. Yeah, I mean the Thursday. The Thursday is usually when it was okay. It's the first day of the convention weekend. So we're gonna kick it off on Thursday, and I don't know. Like was this the Thursday that E3 was originally supposed to start off, and they just could not get people to change.
E3 always started on you had the proper press conferences are usually lately was Microsoft was Sundays, which they're keeping up. We talked about that last week. And you had a couple other on Sunday. Then you had Monday was like Sony and a bunch of other press conferences. Square Enix, Ubisoft, and then Tuesday was usually Nintendo in the morning, and then a couple, maybe little indie ones here and there, and that was it because it was Tuesday. Every year that I went to E3, the day would start at noon on Tuesday because everybody was kind of finishing Nintendo's press conference and getting some early access hands-on at some of the hotels and stuff. And then the show floor would open at noon. And and it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But you actually had stuff happening as early as like Thursday and Friday, sometimes of the week before. I think Oculus, back when it was Oculus, held an event like the Thursday before, and then Starbreeze held an event, or somebody held an event where they debuted a really ugly looking VR headset on like the Saturday night. So EA had their EA Play on Saturday usually, lately. So it was kind of all over the place, but this is a weird but they were always in the evening. Microsoft was in the daytime because it's Microsoft and they've kind of owned it. So maybe they're just trying to take over what E3 used to be for this time slot, which makes it really weird if E3 does manage to come back next year and Jeff is really sticking to this 11 o'clock time slot. What's that gonna, how is that gonna?
Is there any chance that the ESA invites him back to do anything partnership wise?
I don't know. I have no. It's he is. He burned that bridge, but
at the same time,
to get him to stop doing this.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I mean, the other thing is that he's built a very significant brand cachet that has value to it. And if you are the ESA and you're like, oh shit, we really need to re-legitimize E3, having Keeley there is now not a detractor, but a benefiter to the legitimacy of your show and as a platform.
And he has a network, and that network may be useful to them as well.
Sure.
I mean, and also like the dude knows how to single-handedly set a stage production.
Yeah.
So,
and even as a kickoff event, it's actually not a bad idea. You have this couple-hour kickoff event with potentially with games that may or may not be in. You're not going to have Telltale's Expanse game like he showed last year during the Game Award. You're not going to have that in any of the other quote unquote big E3 press conferences. So you could have it in a Summer Game Fest. You could have some. You could have an Elden Ring there, and then have more shown during the the other press conferences, which what people have done. So, we'll see. I think there's opportunity.
Well, we'll find out if we have to see if E3 comes back first.
Yeah, if it comes back. But anyways, there you go. Circle your calendars, or since you don't really circle them, you just kind of input it in your phone or on Google Doc. There it is, June 9th. We will do a live drink along as usual.
I'm gonna be. You want me to take the day off?
I took the day off.
I am. I'm taking the day.
I notified my boss that I'm taking a half day that day.
I got days to burn, JJ.
You guys are work from home anyway, so it's for the time.
Oh goodness. Let's see here. All right, so then next little bit of news here that I got. Let's see, I can pull this sucker in. I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, everybody's suing Activision.
Oh yeah, yeah. So But this story specifically, which is the New York City pension, is suing Activision. So this is the type of thing that we're going to start to see a lot of, and actually it's happening with, this is unrelated to our show, but with Twitter, with a lawsuit coming out of Delaware. Similar idea though, which is pensioners, hedge fund managers, larger organizations that have investments in companies of the size of Activision and Twitter, because they are stockholders, as long as they have enough stock to have push, they can file a lawsuit and say, you devalued our enterprise by doing X, Y, and Z. And so that's the short rundown of what's happening with the newest Activision lawsuit.
The latest Activision lawsuit.
Yeah, I mean, you look hard enough there, we expect to see more stuff coming out about Kotick. It's looking more like he was amicable about the sale for particular reasons, which is that he knew that this was probably going to get worse for him and get worse for Activision, which is why when Microsoft came to the table, he was like, yeah, you know what? This is the right time. And so, yeah, I don't know if there's anything more we need to say about that one. We've already talked about Activision enough as it is.
Exactly. One thing we can talk about is, let me see if I can load this sucker up. No, I can't. I will click over here. Since we didn't post this news, we're getting this news out of Gematsu, and to be honest, it's been kind of posted everywhere. But you remember that Prince of Persia remake?
Oh,
That was supposedly on the way, being made out of Pune, India, a studio there. Ubisoft Montreal is taking over that Sands of Time remake.
Free advertisement for MLB The Show 2022.
There you go,
welcome.
Right there.
Available now on Game Pass.
Brought to you by Excedrin. Game over for headaches. I did not use that last. No. So it's been a troubled game, right? It's already gone through a few delays. And this is just the latest delay.
I just don't give a shit about this.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that I never played the original.
It's a great game, but it was a great game. Like at this point, the amount of time that it's taking to get this remake out, you could have just been making a new Prince of Persia.
Right. Yeah.
Like
which people honestly would have given more of a shit about.
The thing about remakes are like they're kind of good for stopgap reasons for a lot of reasons for things like or remasters or whatever. It's just like
so yeah. I guess I think to your point, JJ.
Yeah.
What it feels like from Ubisoft is that there's no strategy to it.
Yeah.
They're just doing it.
They're just doing it because they
but
can,
it's not.
because
But not for a reason.
Yeah.
Just because somebody like had the idea, hey, a Prince of Persia remake would be kind of cool, and somebody else was like, yeah, you know what? It might be. Let's do that. Yeah. But it's not like not to fill a need or a passage of time, just because like we could. When I don't know, you know that there's got to be somebody else at Ubisoft who was like, dog, I just pitched a new Prince of Persia like 2 months ago, and they said no. I'm saying there, that's it. It had to have happened. Maybe it was longer than 2 months, but there's no way that somebody didn't pitch a new Prince of Persia and got shot down. But then somebody was like, "Oh fuck, God, you remember how much people like the original Prince of Persia? We should remake that." I don't know.
Somebody say Prince of Persia? Let's remake it.
Yeah.
But it's just such a shit show.
Yeah, like just scrap it. Like
at this point,
Like why bother? Like we all saw when they first started showing off the game a little bit how bad it looked.
Yeah, it did not look good.
And it's just like so clearly like it's in a bad place. Like what? There is no good that can possibly come out of this project, and like all it can do at this point is tarnish the Sands of Time. Like. You already kind of did that with the movie.
Yo, dog, there was a movie. You guys remember that? I totally forgot.
Jake Gyllenhaal's Prince of Persia with accompanying Lego sets.
Oh God, they need to. I don't know. I don't know who's excited about this anymore. I'm certainly not. I really wasn't in the first place, but now I'm definitely not looking forward to it.
Prince of Persia is such a versatile, like action game sort of like base that it just like because like you have the original ones, which was those fun rotoscope, side-scrolling sort of adventure games. And you had Sands of Time, and it's sort of like kind of follow-ups, which had their thing, and you had the 2008. The Prince of Persia game that was like really fucking good. Yeah. That it was like Wario.
The Wind Waker
where it was just like you can't die, everything's great. Like it's like
they need to reboot it. They need to go ahead, just reboot it, and
just to make a new fucking game.
Just make a new game. That'll go over better, and then let this sucker die and.
Well, we all know that that's not the way this is going to go, so we will just have to wait until they finish this remake.
I cannot fucking wait for this to like end up coming out with like some sort of weird like tiered deluxe situation where it's like $30 will get you the base game, $40 will get you it and a remastered version of the original game, and like $50 will get you the original classic and the Xbox Live Arcade remake and the
well.
No, it's going to come with free Prince of Persia NFTs. Sorry for the wait.
There you go. One game that is maybe it's on track, although I'm definitely expecting a delay. It's the last bit of news here, by the way. Yeah. Somehow, Final Fantasy 16 is supposedly ready to go.
We still
soon.
We still never got the showcase from last year, right?
Yeah.
Because like there was supposed to be the big update / announcement about 16 coming from Yoshi P, and we didn't get that last year, and we still have not gotten it this year.
Yeah.
So, gotta assume that they're just postponing until Squeenix does a showcase.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like, I mean, I'm guessing that's going to be a part of. Well, look here. The news is it's near the end of development, and there's a trailer ready to go. The trailer's been completed, and they're waiting for the right time. They're waiting to release it soon. I'm guessing it's probably going to be part of the whatever PlayStation thing is going to be happening in the next couple months here. Probably, I'm going to guess, since there's no E3 this year, they don't care. They'll probably drop something at the end of May, maybe end of this month, very beginning of June. But maybe Summer Game Fest for all we know. But I think
Sony doesn't have a squared up next, because Final Fantasy 16 is exclusive, or at least timed. And they don't really have anything squared up on like coming out other than God of War.
Yeah.
So they need another notch in the belt, so to speak, or at least they should want one.
This is the time you have a showcase and show some of your biggest games, because
guess what, you got no more Forbidden West footage to show off anime.
Guess what you guys are getting? You guys are going to get that. Remember Last of Us 2? Well, now you're getting Last of Us 1 again. So we'll
strategic remakes.
Strategic remakes. But enough about that. Enough about news. Let's get into games that we are gaming, plays that we are gaming. I want to start with you, Taylor. Have you been playing anything lately? You were playing something just now, actually.
Yeah, I was. So we got back from PAX, and then hold on. Did we have a week last week? Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
you weren't on it, but yeah,
I wasn't. I don't remember what I did last week, to be honest. Last week was like
it was a blur.
100% a blur. And then I was gone. I was out of town last weekend, and then I didn't play. Let's pretend I didn't play any games. I didn't do anything at all. Actually, I brought my Steam Deck on the road with me and literally did not turn it on a single time.
Is that always weekend. How it happens?
Dude, it was.
I'm going to bring my console with me.
It was so depressing. Oh, it was the worst. And then I was in the office. I commuted all day this week, and the biggest thing is that when I do my commute and then I come home, I'm like, I'm fucking flushed. I don't want to do jack shit.
You don't want to be in front of another screen.
And so, we would eat dinner, put my daughter to bed, and then I would be like, okay. And I just sit on the couch and I just bring out the Steam Deck instead of going downstairs to my computer. And so I put in like 10 hours of Rogue Legacy over the past week.
Rogue Legacy 2?
Rogue Legacy 2.
Nice.
And Rogue Legacy 2 is an interesting game because anybody who's played Rogue Legacy 1 and looked at what's happened to the roguelite game space since that one came out, you're like, okay, listen, they're making a sequel, whatever. It was a good game at the time, but it can't compete with the stuff that's out there now. And if you just assume that it's going to do something really similar to what the first one did, you think that, okay, this, who knows? But Rogue Legacy 2 is impeccable. I don't know. They did it. They did it. They did it. They clearly knew what they were doing the first game, and stuff has come out since then, and the new one's even better.
They've updated the art style.
Oh, dude, the art is so good. It's like the layered 2D kind of painty. I don't know. It just works. It looks really good. on the Steam Deck, which is, aside from what I played right before the show started, where I put in all of the time on my play, it's, it plays perfect on Steam Deck, 60 FPS and solid, no drops or anything like that. It's just a great game. I don't know. If you're A, like the first one, or B, like roguelites, this is the kind of game that you are wanting to play.
Roguelite ass roguelike.
It really, really is.
Nice.
That's a great, yeah, that's good. Highly recommend.
Excellent. Yeah, I need to get. Well, I've only played minimally of the first one. Just one of those games that just kind of, I got it, I started playing it, and then I stopped because of,
whatever.
There was something else.
Any number of reasons.
So, would you recommend me playing getting back into the first game first, and then hopping?
Not worth your time. No,
just go right to this.
There's nothing that you gain by playing Rogue Legacy 1 compared to Rogue Legacy 2, unless you just really wanted to experience the difference of it. But if you've been playing roguelites or roguelikes in the interim since then, you're going to go back to Rogue Legacy 1 and be like, okay, I went backwards in some of the stuff. So I would just hop into Rogue Legacy 2.
Cool. I might do that. Well, excellent. Well, I might do that now that have essentially completed this game. Let me show you guys. Ready? I've been playing. Well, getting close. It's not a long game that I'm gonna talk to you guys about, but it's an impactful game. It's called Trek to Yomi.
Oh.
I'm gonna go full screen on this bad boy because I, like JJ and like Zach, I have started to do a presentation. I'm very proud of myself, and I think this is definitely something that that you guys have rubbed off on me as a great way to tell the story of a review. So I'm just gonna go full screen here. Trek to Yomi. So Trek to Yomi, and I've got this is a good presentation, I hope. Trek to Yomi is a classic Japanese cinema themed kind of samurai shogun classic classic Japanese film experience. Kurosawa, but there's a little bit more experience, and it's very cinematic for folks that are just getting into this game for the first time. If you're a younger player and you've probably never seen a lot of these older movies, which I'll talk about here, you're going to look at this and say, "Oh, it's exactly what I think of a Japanese samurai movie is," but it's actually a lot more than that. So. Trek to Yomi. Yomi, by the way, is essentially the afterlife, but it's published by Devolver Digital. It's developed by Flying Wild Hog, and it's a immaculate love letter to classic Japanese cinema. And I keep saying cinema because it's not a love letter to sword battles. It's a love letter to the movie. That genre of films. And so let me talk about a couple of these films, right? Tokyo Story, I think it was 1953 or so. And you're going to start seeing the steam develop in these images that I'm showing you guys. Tokyo Story, probably one of the first biggest, if not the biggest, original Japanese cinematic films, cinematic masterpieces, I should say. Black and white, of course, of that era. Post-war Japan, so there's still aspects of U.S. occupation in there. They're kind of building up their prowess in filmmaking, and now that the company is sort of the country is in growth again, they're starting to put more money back into the arts after the war, right? So after enough stuff has sort of started to advance again in the 50s, that they're starting to pour money back in. Obviously, this is the era of Godzilla as well, and there's some kind of aspects of Godzilla in this that I'm talking about. But the thing about the films of this era in Japan is they're very poetic, right? There's almost like this sense of haiku in the way that they construct the movies, and that every shot, every line that someone says, every image you see, every item, everything has meaning, and it all kind of all kind of works together. So in Trek to Yomi, they've taken that same aspect where everything needs to be cohesive and everything needs to work together. Not like, Doctor Strange 2 that we just saw, which is like everything just make your eyes melt, no pun intended and no spoiler intended. But it just needs to look cool. In this, every single shot, like you see this perspective shot in Tokyo Story, which is, by the way, it's a phenomenal film about this elderly couple and their kids essentially want to send them to a health spa, and so I would recommend watching it. They're all English subtitles. You can find them all over the place. I even think YouTube probably has them. But you look at the shot in perspective, and they chose this shot because it's a sort of gorgeous home or gorgeous abode. It's got lighting, it's got shadow in there, and it's got this sort of dichotomy, and it's leading you down this hallway, right? And then one of the next shots is looking at the couple, and you're almost like peeking in on their lives, and what this whole genre, there's a strong theme of you're not watching a movie, you're watching someone's life sort of unfold, and sometimes that does mean like peeking around a corner and seeing something happening, unfolding, and you see a lot of stuff in the foreground in front of people, in front of the action. And I think that's such a cool aspect, especially in Tokyo Story, which is one of the first real films to do it. Obviously, Seven Samurai, there's a big thematic essence of that in this game in terms of how they sort of display battles. And in this scene in Seven Samurai, right, if you haven't seen Kurosawa's masterpiece, that Rashomon, that kind of stuff, it's this sort of 2D platformer, right? You're looking at this scene with somebody practicing sword fighting, and they're doing certain aspects where it's almost like a dance, but it's sort of playing out in front of you like on a stage, so to speak. And the focus is very intent on having this person be in the center, but not be in the foreground. They're literally in the center of a room where there's stuff in front of them, there's stuff behind them, and you're kind of seeing them sort of, dance with their sword at that point. Then you have this as well, another really famous scene. Again, look at that stuff that's in the foreground there. You're one of the bystanders watching this scene unfold. And you go into Harakiri, sorry, which is another famous film right around that time. The duel, right? There's sort of the samurai shogun and a lot of those kind of medieval or feudal medieval Japanese films of that era really focused on these duels, which is one person versus another person, and every battle is about honor. It's not just a cool fight, but it's combat. And we spoke a little bit about that when we talked about Everything Everywhere All at Once. There's a lot of there's a lot of combat. It's not fights, it's not a battle, but it's combat as a problem solving aspect, and that's what this film, this scene actually kind of showcases. Again, it's sort of like a dance. You're not over the shoulder of the quote unquote protagonist. You're seeing this as if you were standing in the field watching these two guys battle it out. Another one, I love it. The guy is he's in this thing. He wants to commit harakiri. Sorry. But he's kind of getting talked out of it. But he's being judged by everybody around there. Again, it's not a close up to his face. You're sort of in the rafters watching the scene unfold. To get back to Trek to Yomi, you start thinking about what that actually means, right? Trek to Yomi takes place as a. Let me see here. I think this is playable. Can I play it here? Nope. I have to go back here. Oh, I can't play it. Darn. I actually had the gameplay trailer there. Come on, YouTube, will that let me?
This is like the.
Oh well.
This is the PAX panel all over again.
This is the PAX panel all over again. No, I'll play the video in a second here. Trek to Yomi takes place. Starts off as the young kid. Again, it's built on the idea of honor, the idea of fulfillment of duty. As this young child, you're training in the arts, in the combat arts with your sensei. All of a sudden, he's called off to something's happening down in the town square, so he's called off, and you start to get a little worried because it was very rushed, right? And this all unfolds in like the first 2 minutes of the game. So you run off to try to find him, and you're kind of moseying through this town. And you can see the shot there. People are just kind of walking around. Again, it's deliberately set up. I'm gonna mute you, Taylor.
I was just heading over there. Yeah.
Yes, son of a gun. It's deliberately set up as if you were you were one of the bystanders watching this just sort of take place, right? Obviously you're controlling the hero, but he's walking across the stage there. You're going through foreground and background in some of the scenes, but it's a really interesting take. Again, a lot of perspective, a lot of we call it chiaroscuro, but a lot of dark and light and contrast and shadow and sunlight, and it's done in black and white, so they really are emphasizing that era. So you go on, and he's looking for his master, his sensei again. He's walking through this portion of town. He's walking past people. You see the stuff in the foreground there, right? There's a guy getting to work in the foreground and milling something. There's people in the background. In a typical platforming game or a 2D side-scrolling game, you wouldn't have stuff necessarily happening in the foreground like this, right? You would be just focusing on the action in the back, but you're meant to see this as you're a part of this experience. And I love this shot. This is after one of the first initial battles where he's kind of taking out some of these bandits. You're in the house across the street, overlooking this battle take place. Everything in the foreground is got that blur to it. So it's framing this fight that just took place. And it's so cool because I feel like I'm peeking through this window as this battle, and it's purposefully from a specific distance away. So I can't tell what the guy's face is saying. You hear what they're saying, but you can't see their face. You see their actions and you see the battle. And again, it's one-on-one battles. And it's so cool from that standpoint. I really do feel like I'm somebody living in this little village watching this combat, this mortal combat take place. And here's the battle right there. Like I mentioned, one-on-one, you can actually see somebody, a secondary bandit kind of coming in there. But the way the battles unfold, structurally, it's very one-on-one. There's usually weapons. There's not always weapons, but there's usually weapons. And it's set up like a duel, right? So even if there are folks sort of coming at you from different sides, you're mostly going to be taking them on one by one. Now, it doesn't mean that two people won't attack you at once. You may be swinging your sword at one dude, then the person behind you might want to jump in, so you'll have to turn around and fight them, but they generally wait their turn. And they are sword fights, right? So you really have to block, you have to parry, you have to roll out of the way. Because it's in 2D, there's a little bit of an advantage at that point, at least that sort of kind of keeps things a little more focused. But it focuses on that combat. It says, like the guy that you're fighting here in this shot runs at you. A lot of the bandits do this. A lot of times they'll start with like a high swing, which means you have to parry up high. I'm doing hand motions in our video here, but you have to parry up high or block up high. And then he'll usually come in with a medium or lower shot, and you have to block down low. So he'll telegraph these shots based on kind of his posture and the way he's going to be swinging and attacking. And then if you manage to block those, then you've kind of stopped them from swinging, and you can hopefully get a shot in. But if you do it just right, you can give him a little bit of a stun, and that gives you a really good opening to swing away. Now, these battles can be real difficult, even on normal difficulty. The battles are definitely challenging, and they're meant to be, because you can see my little life gauge there. You start off with sort of 6 life ticks there, and then that little line, that squiggly line below it, is your stamina. And essentially what that means is you have to, if you keep swinging or blocking too much, then you're going to wear down your energy, and you're going to have to, your character starts breathing heavy, and he can't fight back as easily. He can't block as easily. And I think there's something really kind of cool about that, because it leaves you open for attack. And so you have to manage not only swinging and blocking, but also regaining your stamina, getting out of the way. If you get cornered between 2 or 3 of these dudes coming at you, you really have to, understand who you're going to go after first and how to get away from folks, and try to get a breather off the side. So luckily, after, 2 or 3 of these fights, there's usually a save point that you can get to and heal up and then move on to the next area. So it's generous from that standpoint, that there's only a couple bits of combat, and then you can save, and then the next bits of combat, and then save. But I really admire that each of these battles really does feel like a one-on-one duel. Really does feel like I'm coming at each of these with, I almost know this bandit, because a lot of these bandits will talk, they'll say stuff, they'll argue, they'll be looting a house, and you'll kind of catch them in the act, and they turn around and attack you. And so there is personality to each one. Here's a really cool scene. There was a fight on one of the bridges. There's lots of fights on bridges, lots of fights over water. But again, you're imagine yourself as somebody on a boat looking up, and you're seeing these 2 guys fight, which I think is just so cool. And then, you're standing in the field here. You've found out where your sensei is, and again, cool stuff in the foreground there. There's a lot of the lumber that they've been working on. And it's time to sort of rescue, because the bandits have your guy. There it is. I'm going to head into the town square, and I'm going to rescue him. And again, another great shot. All these shots it's a very linear game. There's not a lot of like extra stuff you can do. It's not like you're running around in 3D and climbing stuff. And it's definitely not like, what was that game that came out last year? That PlayStation game, that samurai game, ninja. God, I can't remember anymore. Anyways, it's not a giant 3D open world. It really is a linear experience, and it's really focused. So again, exploring that. Again, a lot of these shots are set up to be that very realistic experience. I think, and what I mean by that is every shot has just an enormous amount of detail. It's not like they're reusing assets like you'd see in a lot of other games. It's not like, oh, there's the same tree over and over again. No, it's every scene has been built up. Every piece of clothing that's kind of hanging on a line there feels like it's the first time you're seeing it. Every house feels fresh and original, even though they're not. They everything feels like it's meticulously been designed as opposed to copy pasted. And again, this scene, it's one line. You're literally just running diagonal. You can't go left or right. You're just running up one way. But there's so much awesome kind of depth in this. Running through graveyards, right? Every gravestone is different. It's unique. They're not vertical gravestones. They understand that this is a village that's been around for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. These gravestones have been decaying, and the ground's been moving. So this stuff is shifting left and right, but everything has this weird sense, or this great sense of life and history. And so when you do get to aspects of this world, I mean, again, this is just the opening sequence. This is 5 minutes into the game. This is the first chapter. You've already seen all this stuff, and none of this is like static. Everything is moving. Everything's alive, and it's just so well done. And you get to, of course, fighting the head of the bandits after he's mortally injured your wounded. Yeah, that guy jacked. Look at that 6-pack. I hopped on the elliptical right away after playing this. But there's the view. You are now in the hero's body, or in first person perspective in a little bit, but this is more of a storytelling feature. Like this is coming at you, right? This is almost like he is definitely the evil dude in this scene, but I think from all your focus on, and it's kind of positioned from you've been knocked down, you're sort of looking up at him. I think it's a great angle that they're using. Time goes by, you've sort of grown up a little bit, and this is obviously the opening sequence right here with the title screen. But now you've taken over, kind of managing this town. Again, I don't want to spoil a lot of stuff. This is very in line with what Japanese cinema of the time was. This is very obvious storytelling that if you've been involved in games in the last 25 years, you're gonna understand it. But it's that whole haiku aspect, right? It's these short scenes. They work together to tell a bigger story, and every blade of grass in this is unique enough. Like, look at that. Every blade of grass looks different. You look at like a game like Horizon, Forbidden West, or Zero Dawn, either of them, and we always talk about how incredible, amazing they look, but look at the fucking grass. Like that. That's the tag. Look at the fucking grass. I mean, that's a great tagline for this, and I think it's such a great way to realize you don't need to make a giant expand. What the hell's going on there, Taylor?
I hit my microphone.
Yeah, you're going nuts.
I just moved my arm.
But yeah, everything is so meticulously created and so purposeful in this that I think it really has an impact.
Yeah, what I was getting ready, I was moving my arm because I was going to say something, which was what it kind of reminds.
With your arm.
No, but I like to move my mic when I'm getting ready to speak. It reminds me of when they were talking about some of the development for Spider-Man Into the Multiverse, or Into the Spider-Verse, where their idea was that every individual frame of that movie could be kind of viewed,
sure,
like frame by frame, and look good every single time. This reminds me of that in a lot of ways. It's
in that vein. I think it's not just meant to look good in this case, which it definitely does. It's meant to be meanful. Like everything is so meaningful. And again, I'll blaze through this real quick. Again, look at this just gorgeous scene. It's a silhouette, amongst this background, the lights coming through. Here is like fucking rocks. Here I am. You kind of see him. He's walking across that little ledge back there. And then here's kind of one of the last scenes I wanted to talk through. It literally, this is all about the storytelling experience. Yeah, one-on-one battles. Obviously, it's combat, but this is cinema. We looked at Sifu, which is cinematic fights, like cool kung fu style fights from a few months back. This is the actual cinematic story from that era, from the 50s film era of Japan, that is so compelling. And hey, the combat is pretty cool. The duels are pretty cool. The actual plot ends up being, it goes places. Like it's all about integrity. It's all about honor. It's all about like rebirth of this character. And I think it's such a worthwhile experience. And it's only like 4 or 5 hours long. I mean, this is an awesome game I actually don't recommend playing it on Steam Deck, because look how tiny.
Yeah, I was gonna say you kind of want it a little bigger.
Yeah, you do want this a little bigger. This is the kind of game that you might actually want to play on a big screen TV. So if you're playing it on Steam, that's fine. Plug it in your TV or stream it to your TV. I think it's worth it that way. Anyways, Trek to Yomi. God, it is. It's worth it just for the kind of experiential aspect of telling this story. And I think the majority of folks who play this are really gonna, or are hopefully gonna, see that side and not just think, oh, just another side-scrolling ninja game, because it's definitely not that. Not ninjas, obviously. It's so much more. And kudos to Flying Wild Hog for putting this together, because I think it's so freaking fantastically done. And it's catapulted to some of my favorite games. I'm gonna mute you again, Taylor. God almighty, you're click clacking. It's picking up everything. It's catapulted to my top 3 games of the year already. And I think it's a fantastic. It's an experiential thing that I think you guys got to check out. So yeah, there you go. Now I've unmuted you. There it is.
That's crazy.
We could hear every move you were doing.
I don't know what it's so wild because hold on, what's my
gone for 2 weeks is what happens.
Oh, that's why. Hold on.
While you're setting that up, JJ, you got comics, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, what better time to talk about comics, right?
Yeah.
Like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
JJ, I saw your tweet.
Now you sound better. You sound better, Taylor.
Yeah. So what I did, I don't know when I would have done this. My StreamYard mic input was direct mic. Not NVIDIA Broadcast, which is what I usually use. So there was no noise canceling or reduction going on. But JJ, I saw your frankly offensive tweet about how you're putting me on notice about Monday being my cutoff date for you spoil.
That's Disney's official mandate, not mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, you were more than happy to hop on fucking board. Which means that I had to mute Multiverse personally in Twitter.
Don't you worry. I'm not that guy. I would.
No, it's too late. I already did it.
That's fine.
You're not
you don't
that
have to,
guy.
It's smart to do that, just not for me. I wouldn't. I have a Twitter group chat that I can waste all of this energy on.
But yeah, no, it's bonkers that. It's bonkers that Disney was like, yeah, Monday seems good enough. After the opening weekend, suck it, bitch.
Like, well, I went on YouTube like this morning, and there were already like the biggest spoilers were already like fully up there, ready to go.
Well, I mean, I expect that everything after. Yeah. I mean, because have the early showings gotten pushed to Wednesday yet?
Not yet.
Only like world premieres and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's enough for me, man.
Yeah.
Some spoilers, some places like I think the UK gets it on like Tuesday or Wednesday, but we're still Thursdays in the US.
Yeah. Because
Thursday at like 9 p.m.
Yeah.
I went at 7.
My showing was 6:10 p.m. on Thursday, and that wasn't even like the first showing.
No, there was a showing.
Back in my day, it used to be midnight because it was actually Friday.
Yeah, actually it was 11:59, and then but they stopped doing that after the Batman incident. So
but don't they still count it as weekend showings?
They do. Yeah.
It's
bullshit. Stupid.
And also tomorrow is also Free Comic Book Day.
Yes.
So,
I have to go down to my comic store.
Yeah,
I'm gone again this weekend. No.
Find a comic store wherever you're at.
Yeah,
JJ,
there's not one.
Yeah,
a lot of bookstores will give away stuff too.
Yeah, if you're near, if you have a local comic book store, go there. There's some good stuff this year, and a lot of them will do sales and discounts and things. Even like if you have like a half price books, they'll do stuff. If you have,
that's where I'm going.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. It helps the small businesses, and you'll get some like ridiculous 25-cent clearance books at half price books. If you go there, it's beautiful. So I figured why not dive back in, and I've got 5 comics that I chose from my pull box from the last 3 weeks. So I'll start with the final issue 2 of Jim Rugg's Hulk Grand Design. If we can focus it in there. I need to turn off the blur.
Turn off the blur.
Just for this particular moment here, but we'll blast through it. So you got Hulk Grand Design Madness. It's
a badass cover.
Oh, it's a badass comic. I can open it up a little bit. It's artist Jim Rugg, who's kind of like an independent sort of folk artist almost, and it's all sort of like pop art in a lot of ways, and this is issue 2. The first issue came out a couple of weeks ago, and it's sort of pop art retelling of the entire history of the Hulk.
Oh wow!
So like this one starts off like with like him marrying Betty and like working with the Avengers for the first time, and his rematch with Wolverine and Infinity Gauntlet and all that kind of stuff. So
Hulk was originally introduced in Wolverine.
Wolverine was originally introduced
in Hulk. Okay, yeah. I couldn't remember which way it went.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful, like, just for the art and sort of like a brief history of the Hulk. Both of these comics, both issues, are really, really good. It's called Hulk Grand Design. So that one I love. Next one, they've relaunched The Amazing Spider-Man.
Again, for like the 80th time.
Yeah, so they just wrapped up.
What's nuts is that it's a relaunch of Amazing Spider-Man, not even just Spider-Man. There's here's the alternate.
It's issue 1. What you can't see is underneath it in the little box. It's legacy number 895.
All right.
So they just finished a major storyline event where Peter Parker was no longer Spider-Man. It was Ben Reilly again. And they just wrapped this up. And this one is sort of like starting again from the status quo. It's a new writer, and John Romita Jr. is back doing art on Spider-Man, which is really, really cool. A great Spider-Man artist. And it starts off in a sort of a vague area where something's happened, and Peter Parker is broke again. He's been rich since the.
I saw the movie, JJ. I know that he's broke now.
Yeah, in the comics, he's been rich since the Superior Spider-Man days, where Dr. Octopus took over his body. And so as Dr. Octopus, he went back to college and earned Peter Parker his degree, and then like started Parker Industries. And like the Beyond storyline was Parker Industries folded, and so this company called Beyond acquired the Spider-Man assets and created their own Spider-Man, and that's why Ben Reilly. So that was the whole thing. So this is starting.
What are you talking about?
It's comics. This is the least weird stuff that I'm going to be talking about.
No, this actually. Well, I mean, aside from the body swap stuff, it's actually like, this isn't. Yeah. This is not unintelligible.
Yeah. So now Peter Parker is kind of back at ground zero for whatever reason. You don't know yet. They're kind of working you through it, but he's on the outs with Mary Jane again. His Aunt May's kind of being a little quick with him. He doesn't have a relationship with the Avengers or the Fantastic Four anymore. He's just broke, alone, and trying to figure out the Spider-Man, and people thought he was dead for a while. So this is the launch to that. It's an oversized issue, so it's $6 as opposed to the usual $4. And it's sort of kicking off this brand new Peter Parker having to be Spider-Man while also dealing with the bullshit of being a regular dude with regular dude problems. So so far so good, off to a great start with a great new direction. I hope they kind of keep Spider-Man a little more grounded, because some of the bonkers stuff is a little too bonkers sometimes. I'll talk about this one. It's May 4th was obviously Star Wars Day. Yeah, I know. If you weren't online, it'd be a hard way. So they launched a new comic series called Obi-Wan. This is a variant cover that I got by one of my favorite artists, Peach Momoko. And it's basically going to be its own standalone series where in the Star Wars comics, every handful of issues are shit. So they'll have like Luke Skywalker reading pages out of Obi-Wan's journal. And so you're like going back and learning like what Obi-Wan was doing on Tatooine in the times, kind of like what the new television series is kind of based off of. But this is older Obi-Wan. Like this one starts, it's old Ben Kenobi. And it sort of starts with like him retelling the story of his like earliest days as a child being trained as a youngling. So it'll be very interesting. It's a very good story. It sort of shows like his first steps into becoming a Jedi and his first interactions with Yoda as a trainee and as a Jedi. And the next issue seems it's going to jump forward because it's just journal entries basically. The next one looks like it's going to be Phantom Menace era, him training under Qui-Gon era stuff. So I really like Obi-Wan as a character. Obviously everyone does, but like it's fun to explore it deeper like this, and it feels like when it's just focused on him and not like the greater world of Star Wars and the Skywalkers and all that stuff. It's really entertaining, and some of those journal issues of Star Wars were some of my favorites of the Marvel Star Wars stuff. So to have just sort of its own standalone series, I'm really excited for it. I've added it to my pull list. Can't wait to go experience more Obi-Wan stories. Next up, we got Justice League number 75, which is the death of the Justice League.
Gone forever. Definitely never coming back.
Definitely never coming back. There's a new story major event that's launching. Free Comic Book Day has sort of the first like the teaser for it called Dark Crisis. They reserve the Crisis name for usually big events. Obviously, it's one of their things, and so this is a story where the Justice League get killed, and that's not like a goof. It's not like only a couple of them get killed. You get green spoilers, not spoilers. They have their coffins on the front of the comic, and these are the ones that die. You lose Green Arrow, you lose Green Lantern, you lose Batman, you lose Wonder Woman, and you lose Superman. The last man standing is Black Adam. And the final pages of this actually like kind of apes Infinity Gauntlet in a way, where there's the famous scene where the Silver Surfer crashes through the top of the Sanctum Sanctorum and says like, Thanos is coming and that kind of thing, and they ape that in Infinity War where it's Banner getting crashed through there and doing the Thanos is coming, and it's the exact same thing where it's like he crashes through the Hall of Justice and like he's crushed on the floor and does like the Avengers are dead, or the Justice League are dead. And so Dark Crisis is going to be dealing with the fallout of that, and the Justice League is dead. It's left to sort of the young Justice League people that have been sort of the ones that been kind of hanging out in the periphery. So it's a very fun issue, and despite all the death, because it clearly they're going for a big feel in this issue. Like they want this to be like talked about, and it has a relatively graphic scene of Wonder Woman and Batman and them getting like killed. And it's really, really, really fascinating to see like DC constantly trying to reinvent itself every time. None of it's really working, but like when it comes to an event, they tend to pull out all the stops. So, and this is a crisis event in the current continuity, so I kind of expect them to go all in on it, but after the fact, after inevitably it resets the status quo again for the DC universe, it's just going to fall apart again until they do their next big event that's going to reset the status quo, because DC sort of has lost its direction. Like the individual stuff is good, but like by and large, there's kind of it's mostly forgettable, which is a shame. Like I love DC comics. Like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman are like if you have a Mount Rushmore of comic book characters, 3 of them have to be like DC characters. Like it's like Batman and Superman alone deserve to be on there. I think like Spider-Man is probably Marvel's biggest character, or at least was up until like nowadays, with Iron Man and Captain America being what they are. But I still think Spider-Man, it transcends stuff. And Wonder Woman's right up there too. Like these are characters that have been around for 20 years longer than most of the Marvel superheroes. Like Batman.
Namor is going to be up there.
Yeah, like Batman and Superman are like celebrating the like 85th anniversary now. Meanwhile, this issue of Spider-Man is Spider-Man's 60th anniversary. Yeah. So, and last but not least, a very interesting one. This is it's giant size. It's a one shot, so there's only the only issue. It's Giant Size X-Men #1.
The first one ever.
Thunderbird. It's just about Thunderbird. It's co-written by Nyla Rose, the AEW wrestler.
That's kind of awesome.
And so the big thing about this one is, okay, if you haven't been following X-Men books, they are insane. they live on their own island now as a private mutant nation. The island itself is a mutant. And they have cured all illness and death.
What?
You can't die if you're a mutant because they basically are keeping a backup of you. So when you die, Krakoa can rebirth you from an egg, and you retain your memories, and you're who you were, born again. At one point, they were able to cure all illnesses, and they were sort of like flooding the American economy with their drugs to sort of crush the major pharmaceutical companies and stuff. As sort of like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, X-Men's bonkers now. It's kind of doing away with the weird human rights things and just kind of going for like this weird socialist utopia thing. And it's been working out relatively good for the most part, which is they're hated on Earth, I guess. It's hard to say because Krakoa just kind of exists in its own thing. But after a recent storyline, the Wanda, who's not a mutant, but like was killed on Krakoa, and there was a whole thing. It was a trial of Magneto, and it was this whole thing about, do we resurrect her? She's not a mutant, but she's mutant causes, and he's not her dad, but he is her dad with Magneto and all this stuff. She ends up sort of curing herself, so like all of the darkness is now purged out of her, and she gives mutants the ability to not need the backups. You can just no matter how long you've been dead, you can get resurrected, and thusly bringing back Thunderbird, who's kind of been one of those mutants that's been dead. Who's like one of the first mutants ever killed in the comics. Like he was in the original Giant Size X-Men when they relaunched it, and issue 2 they killed him. And like Warpath ended up being his brother. He got all that kind of stuff. And so this is him resurrected, trying to like find his way in the Nissus world that he has nenever lived in. And he ends up going
kind of
back.
An awesome premise.
Yeah, and it's him going back to his like his home, to his tribe, because he's a Native American superhero, and stuff's going down, and it's him trying to sort of solve like the problems that are going down there, while people also trying to be like, you've been dead, why should we even trust or
you've been dead.
Yeah, and it's like, it's a genuinely good one shot, despite the sort of ridiculousness of what X-Men's doing with this, like, we've cured death, like clearly nothing's going to come out of this, but because it's at some point this is all going to explode in their faces, and that'll be a huge event.
Well, what's always weird about stuff like this, and kind of similar to the House of M territory, which is create a really complicated, very particular atmosphere that in the end we will wipe away, and it won't matter to any particular significance other than the fact that, like, hey, you remember that House of M shit?
Well, it's funny with the House of M stuff, the No More Mutants thing that happened at the end of House of M only very, very recently got rectified, which is the most bizarre. Like that's going to keep happening in comics, which is the fact that, like, whoever takes over the broader editorial choice is going to be like, all right, this is the one thing that we're going to remember, or that's going to be really important from what happened there. Yeah. And it's like every like cycle reboot of like anything that like Wanda is involved in, somebody's like, can we really trust her? I mean, she did do all of that stuff. She did manipulate reality to be like where her dad was king. Like, so but like, I don't know where the X-Men stuff goes from here. It's gotten too big and ridiculous at this point, and it's kind of hard to tell how it's going to blow up in their faces, other than probably another Avengers versus X-Men kind of situation.
Probably,
the Phoenix Force will get involved in some way, as it always does, and then like there will be some sort of like mutant registration something, or we can't. So. Some good mutant.
Time to rehash one of the other main story elements of the X-Men that we have going for us.
Cyclops will turn bad again. It'll just be all that stuff. So.
No, I'm counting on him for my Deadpool storyline.
So that's my 5
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And tomorrow is Free Comic Book Day.
Free Comic Book Day. Get them
books. So yeah, there's plenty of video game related. There's a Bloodborne comic for
There's a Bloodborne comic. There's a Sonic comic. There's a Street Fighter comic.
There's always a Street Fighter and always a Sonic and always a Pokemon comic.
There's a Pokemon Adventures. Yeah. So there's a Turtles one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw the Turtles one
with the vintage Eastman style.
This is the case of me having to go. Might have to go to 2 or 3 stores because each one is they have a limit. Usually it's like 2 to 3 comics is the most you can get. So it's like, all right, I gotta go to like 3 of them now to get all the ones that I actually want to check out.
Mine does 5.
Oh, nice.
But I am surrounded by 3 like distinct comic book stores. Okay. So I could get all of them if I wanted to, but I won't. I may dress up tomorrow. I may have to wear my Ghostbusters costume.
Nice. Well, I'm going to dress up into my pajamas shortly here because that's the end of this episode.
Oh yeah,
gents, a good time as always. Yeah. It's fantastic to hang out. Where can you guys can find me? Oh wait! I just heard somebody. Oh, hey,
wait,
hold on. Pause. Time out. Somebody just joined. Hey, friend, how are you? Oh, hey, Dolly. I chew bubblegum and I kick ass and make video games. And I hear, oh, guys, it's Reggie. Look at that, it's Reggie. Just wanted to.
You know what? So what was funny is that like I could not find the tweet, but as soon as you said that, it's like in between his book tour, I was like, there's no fucking way. It's like I believed 100% that you would tweet at Reggie. And also and also be no way that he would ever fucking reply to you about it.
I'm gonna interview Reggie one day. That's one of my goals. Anyways, I've started reading the book. Disrupting a Game just came out, and it's pretty good. It's just kind of it focuses more on the business side, like his business background and how that sort of
how much Pizza Hut talk is there?
How much there's enough.
Yes. Okay. I'm in.
Meanwhile, like you take that with I have a good game.
Does he mention the Bigfoot pizza?
Let's just say that there is an enormous pizza that he talks about in there.
Yeah.
I will say Reggie also did come up in recent news because of the stuff with Nintendo and contractors and the controversy that's surrounding that at the moment. And so a lot of people have been kind of like, so Reggie's reaction was, that's not the Nintendo that I remember. And a lot of people's reactions are, it was definitely happening while you were there.
No, compare this to the Iwata book, which is a very different kind of book. They ask Iwata stuff. And the Kojima book, which is just this weird.
That Kojima book is bonkers, man.
It's bonkers. I think you gotta be pretty high to watch.
It is just a train of thoughts. That's all that book is,
I think all 3 of these books are great, and I definitely want to play Lancelot. Definitely will be continually reading each of these. It kind of takes the way I read books like this is I'll read a little bit, then it's not a story, right? It's kind of snippets. And so, but yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm like a couple chapters in.
I think I'm just going to get the audiobook of that because
I think I will get the audiobook anyways, because it's Reggie.
It's narrating. Reggie reading it. Yeah. So that's just what I need.
Anyways, at Dolly Demosky, at Taylor Bliss right there. Like it's like I'm tickling your armpit. And tickling your
beard. You got the beard.
There you go. Got your full beard. The __J.
The Earth thing is a good joke to Google if you ever get around to it. Yeah. To see which Earth that is. It's very funny.
You can find us at SideQuesting, SideQuesting.com, SideQuesting TV on Twitch, SideQuesting on YouTube. We'll see you on the next episode of The Side Quest.
Peace.